Hello, welcome. Thank you guys so much for being here today. My name is Felicia from SweetGeorgia and also the School of SweetGeorgia, and this is our live office hours. Today is Thursday, November the 27th. Thank you so much for joining me today, because I know that for many of you, this is Thanksgiving Day. So if you are celebrating, happy Thanksgiving. I hope you have a wonderful time this weekend. But otherwise, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. I'm really, really excited to be here. This is our moment once a month, every month, on the last Thursday of every month, where we just get together and we chat about all of the things that have been happening inside the school, inside sort of the studio, behind the scenes, what we've been working on, all sorts of things like that. So I'm very, very excited to see you guys here, see you guys on the chat as well. Thank you so much for being here. So lots of stuff to share with you. I'm going to show you what I have here. Let me see. I'm going to turn this down. And we have, hopefully a lot of you guys have been making things. It's pouring rain outside here in Vancouver. So hopefully you guys are getting cozy and all sorts of things like that. Let me show you what we have planned today. So this is sort of what we go through every month, and we talk about sort of what's been top of mind, what we've been thinking about, and also what's been going on in the community, what's been happening in terms of updates, things, courses that we're making behind the scenes for the school, and also upcoming events. Sometimes we have some questions that we can answer. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to post them on the chat here, and I will do my best to answer any questions that you might have. We have a number of people also from our team. So Greta is here from our team, and Robin is also here from our team. And so we can also help answer any questions that you guys might have about the school in the chat as well. And if you can't stay for the entire thing, it's no problem, because we do record these sessions and then they will be available for you to review later on if you need to. So this is kind of, yeah, a snapshot from where I was for about 10 days. I was up in the Yukon and it was absolutely gorgeous. It's snowy, it's cold, but it was beautiful. It was perfect. I got to do a ton of knitting. I've been knitting a hat, actually, that Greta has designed, and working on that right now. Um, we're looking at some different techniques. I'm getting out of my color work sort of situation and trying some different things right now. So I've been knitting this hat, and then also spent a ton of time writing the waffle weave class that is going to be filmed in about 2 weeks. And so I was telling Greta yesterday, it was an amazing time, an amazing space to really dive in and dedicate some concentrated hours to writing this stuff. And I'm really, really looking forward to sharing with you the waffle weave stuff that I've been learning. It's absolutely awesome. So I hope that you guys are interested in that too. Yes, it is really beautiful up there. We just don't get any snow like this here in Vancouver. It's always just raining. And so just to be able to see just snow caked on trees, and it's calm and there's light snow, and it's just like all the things in my sort of winter fantasy are this. So yeah, it was absolutely lovely. Now, during that time, I had some time to think about, what's been going on this year. And I did take some time to look back at the year and think a little bit more about what's been going on. And so I do want to share with you, in November, I generally do a look back and look at all of the projects that I worked on this past year. Did I hit my Make 9 that I talked about at the start of the year, and all that kind of stuff? And so I was doing some thinking. And so these are the things that I kind of wanted to share with you. Um, Sometimes it is really challenging to be a multi-craft tool maker. And I think that I'm going to want to talk about this at length again. But this idea of wanting to do all the things and make all the things sometimes can leave you feeling very, very scattered. It kind of feels like you're doing a bunch of random things. I'm kind of playing with a lock pop now, and I'm playing with a blending board now, and I do this only for like a few weeks, and then I switch to something else. And it just feels a little bit chaotic sometimes. It feels like just a whole bunch of random things. But the more I thought about this, the more I feel like maybe the perspective is that they actually all sort of cluster up, or sort of like filter up into bigger and bigger goals. And I've started to look at parallels between what we are doing, trying to make things and trying to learn all these different skills and trying to knit things and also spin things and also weave things and juggling all of the things. And I try to relate them to what people are going through in all sorts of other avenues of life. And so I discovered this word, which I'm probably going to use totally incorrectly, but in sort of like an exercise world, people are talking about this word periodization. And so this is the idea that your body can only handle, a certain amount of kind of adaptation. And so if you are going to strength train and really focus on, strength, then it's very difficult to do that at the same time as you're also like trying to max out your running speed and become a super good runner. So like trying to do all the things is fine. It's just you can't do all the things all at the same time. And so this idea of periodization is very similar to the thing that we've talked about in the past about like seasons of craft, about there are some times where you have a season where you focus on this particular skill or this particular kind of training, this particular type of forward movement to get you towards a certain goal. And then another phase, maybe another period would be focused on a different kind of training or a different kind of learning. And so having like maybe one big macro goal, like I'm going to run a marathon, right? And then in that, you'd have like maybe 5 weeks or 6 weeks or 10 weeks that you would focus on a certain kind of training for that big goal. And then within that, like within a week or within a day, you might be like, today I'm going to focus on this one specific thing, or this week I'm going to focus on this one specific thing. And I feel like this lends itself perfectly to what we talk about with this idea of seasons of craft. And so I look back at this project because this project, this Girdwood sweater that I started last fall, has been it's not an albatross, but I feel a little bit guilty about it. I feel frustrated by it. I love it, but I'm also just I feel bad about it because I feel like, why is it taking me so long? And now looking back at the year, I realize that this project is basically the epitome of an epic project that we have talked about before in the school as well, like choosing your epic project. This is a more multi-craftual project than I could have imagined, right? I am taking fiber that was dyed and splitting it up into bundles of different colors and then weighing them all to make sure that I can make 3 plies of exactly the same colors and weights, and then blending them together on a blending board and doing that, running it through a diz to make it smooth fiber prep, and then spinning super, super consistent singles, which are then 3-plied into 3-ply yarn, which are then knit into a colorwork yoke by hand, and then held together with a strand of mohair and silk yarn, and then hung on the knitting machine, and it just and switching from fiber prep to spinning to knitting by hand to knitting by machine, to then finishing by hand. Like all of this stuff is one big giant epic goal. And so when I look back and I was like, oh, it's so random that I was like using a blending board for about 2 weeks, and then I was sitting at my spinning wheel for maybe a month, and it feels really scattered, but when I look back, I realize that they all came together in this one big epic goal. And so if I go into the new year thinking about this overarching goal, then all of the things that I'm doing within that goal don't seem so odd. They don't seem so random. They don't seem so scattered. So it actually feels very meaningful and very purposeful when you work towards this one thing. So it has been a huge, huge commitment. And I was talking to someone about how I feel like the actual hands-on time for this sweater has actually not been as much as I thought it was going to be. Like, I don't spend every day touching this sweater. It's just the mental load of thinking about working on the sweater and the guilt of not touching the sweater. I think all of that it weighs quite a lot on me. And so I'm trying to shift my perspective to look at it from this sort of bigger picture, and that all of these things, they all add up to this one very meaningful project. So I've learned a ton. I've improved my skill in all of these areas. And so I'm very, very proud of this project, but it's this very funny idea of of looking at the seasons of craft and just focusing on one thing at a time, not necessarily all the things all at the same time. So let's have a quick look back. This is what I actually said I wanted to do in January. And so these were the 9 things that I had picked that I wanted to work on and all these kinds of things. Like I wanted to make and spin Rolex, which I did, and some manual color work. I wanted to learn how to do that on the knitting machine. All of these kinds of things. I wanted to do a little bit more design for twill projects. I wanted to actually spin the Cotswold fleece that is actually still underneath my desk, and become really proficient with the LK150 knitting machine. I put away all my other knitting machines so I could just use the one knitting machine this year. And this year I was also going to become really proficient with the waffle weave on 8 shafts. And so we're going to talk about that in the course coming up. And then I also have, I wanted to get much better at Norwegian purl and Norwegian style knitting. And I'd done a couple of tutorials about this in February, I think, this past year. So knitting tutorials showing various different styles of holding your yarn, holding the yarn in left hand or right hand, all these kinds of things. And I was looking for different ways of holding my yarn so that I could, introduce a little bit more variety so that my wrists maybe don't get repetitive strain by just doing things one way. And so, yes, that was one of the things I wanted to do. And also with the CSM, learning how to do the ribbed socks and also double weave twill on 8 shafts. That's something that I literally just have to sit down for about half an hour and write it out. But we'll talk about that. So I'll show you what I actually did versus what I didn't really get a chance to do. So, like I said, I didn't get a chance to spin that Cotswold fleece, not yet. I didn't get a chance to touch the ribber on my CSM because I was focused on making the course for the school, which is all stockinette socks. And then I didn't do the double weave twill on the 8 shafts because I went back and I did some other things. So, like one of the things I did was I revisited some of the croquebrag that we done a couple of years ago, looking at that croquebrag pattern so that I can write that up. And yes, there is the picture of the stockinette sock. That's the sock anatomy from the CSM course. So that's what I also worked on. I did improve my knitting skill, like my hand knitting skill, and improving sort of my continental knitting, looking at my Norwegian style pearls. I'm also doing that. I'm knitting a hat right now, like I said, that Greta has designed, and I'm using the Norwegian pearl for that whenever I can. I have a little picture here of my 8 shaft waffle weave that we are going to modify and explore a little bit more about as well. And yeah, I did use just this one knitting machine, this LK150 knitting machine, and used it for so many different projects and really feel much more comfortable with it now than I did even a few months ago. So that was fantastic. I did not spin the Cotswold fleece yet, but I did acquire this brand new Daedalus Starling, which I absolutely love. And I use basically 100% of the time for all of my spinning right now. It's kind of, I put all other spinning tools away and I just spin on this Starling now. And I think that this is one of the things that I talked about at the start of the year was this idea of consolidating tools, consolidating projects, consolidating the number of tools that I work on. So that way, everything is a little bit more streamlined. And so that was kind of the goal around that. And then I did spin a bunch. I did make Rolex. I learned how to make Rolex, spun a bunch of things from Rolex. But the more important thing that I feel like I learned this year that I really practiced was spinning 3-ply crepe yarn, and the 3-ply crepe yarn came from an idea from Linda in the community who was spinning this 3-ply crepe yarn to make socks. And we went back and we reviewed Rachel Smith's class, the spinning to knit socks class on the school. And I feel like this past year, I've been spinning my best, most consistent 3-ply yarns of my whole life. And I'm really actually very proud of it because in the past, I always just spun 2-ply yarn, very, very simple. I play with the colors and all sorts of things like that. And then spin 2-ply yarn and made a whole bunch of lace yarn. But now I'm spinning this really beautiful round 3-ply yarn that I'm very, very proud of. So I'm excited to do more of that. And then what else? Oh, manual color work. Yes, I did manual color work on this Girdwood sweater for the sleeve portion. There's a little bit of stranded color work on the cuff area, and I did all of that by machine. So I learned how to do that, and I'm excited to share that one with you as well. And finally, yeah, the twill project. This is the Pacific Plaid project, but this is woven in a totally different yarn. This is the Just Array yarn, and I made a sample out of that as well. So there's so many things to do and so many things to learn, so many things to try. Everything is exciting. Um, but I'm finding that the more I sort of consolidate some of these ideas, consolidate tools, consolidate into one bigger overarching project, the better I feel about what I'm doing. It doesn't feel as scattered. So I'm interested to hear, like, you can post this in the forums, in the circle community. I would love to hear what you think. Also, like, looking back, we're at the end of November now. So one more month in the year. Think back about, like, what are the projects that you worked on? And do you feel like you've made a lot of progress since the beginning of the year? I'm sure that you have. I'm absolutely positive that you have made improvements in this time. And I know that Robin, who's here on the chat, she posted a big, long post in the forums documenting a lot of the projects that she's worked on this past year. And sometimes, if you haven't posted in a while, you've made more than you realize. And so we'd be excited to see what you guys have made as well. So that's a little bit about what I thought of my year. And then I'm going to go into a little bit of planning over December to think about what I'm going to make for next year as well. Now, what do we have next? We're going to talk a little bit about the community, and that is that, okay, so this is our website and this is our community forums for the School of Sweet Georgia. So this is a great spot. If you have questions about any of the courses, this is a great spot to sort of post your question. And very often the instructors of that course will be able to pop in and answer any of your questions. We are looking at this every day. And so Vicky and Robin are popping in here and checking all of these messages and things like that. So I do encourage you guys to come and check out the SOS forums if you have not yet. And also in this area, there is an events calendar, and the events calendar will give you the links to where all of the various events and meetings that we have, where they are all going to be. And so, yes, I do encourage you guys to check out this part of the website. It's schoolofsweetgeorgia.com/community. There's tons of information in there. If you are learning anything, if you're starting weaving, if you're starting spinning, I do encourage you to do a little bit of a search, because you'll probably be able to find the answer to many of your questions through previous answers as well, because we've been running this particular forum since 2018 or 2019. So it's been quite some time. And so there's a lot of information in there, a lot of very, very helpful advice. The other thing that we started this past year, which I'm sure that you guys already know about, but as an SOS member, you have access to this new community space that we have built for, like, the broader Sweet Georgia community. So this space, this community space on Circle, it incorporates everybody who's in the school, has access to it. Anybody who's joined the Secret Stash subscription club also has access to it. Anybody who wants to, sign up to participate in this can be a part of this. And what we're hoping is that this becomes a much more centralized hub for our sort of community to engage. So we are publishing posts here. We're running make-alongs through here. We're running live events through here. We're looking at testing out some free course content on Circle as well, seeing how that kind of operates. So if you're interested in maybe testing out a little bit of stuff with this platform, you want to let me know, that would be fantastic. We have some chat channels in there that are all set up. You can post photos in here. We publish all of the photos of all of the Secret Stash offerings every month is in here. And also we have some patterns that we are giving away within this Circle community. So if you're a member here, you can pop on and download any of these patterns that we have. Sometimes they're only available for a limited time, and Bridget will post them, and then they'll be available for a while, and then we might take them down. So I do encourage you guys to check check in often and see what we are doing in this space. But this is something that we are looking to build a little bit more on in the future. And so as part of that, you guys will know that in 2026, we are going to move a lot of our meetings, most of our meetings, to the Circle platform. So we have, over the past many years, well, been using a combination of Zoom, Google Meet, and YouTube, and also Circle. We're doing like a whole bunch of random things, well, different platforms. They were all for different reasons. But now we're discovering that Circle can actually do all of the things and we can keep it all in one place. And so, yes, our crafternoon meetings and our fiber prep meetings and our weaving meetings will move to Circle in 2026. And some of these sessions will be recorded so that we can archive them and cross post them. But yeah, please do make sure that you check out the calendar to figure out where the meeting is going to be hosted. But starting in 2026, all of the meetings should be posted in Circle. So that's where we're going to do all of that. If you have any questions, please do feel free to message me and ask me questions about all of that. Or if you have any trouble signing on, please do also ask about that as well. Now, these are our latest updates. So, the last course that was launched on the school is the Circular Sock Knitting Machine class. It's called Circular Sock Machine Foundations. And so, the idea with this particular class is that I sort of run you through how to use your circular sock knitting machine from the very beginning. And so, I happen to be using the Erlbacher CSM, but I know that there's many other people who are using many other different kinds of CSMs. You might be using a refurbished one. You might be using a brand new one from another manufacturer. You might be using a 3D printed one, but it shouldn't matter because the principles should all be the same. And so in this class, we go through how to knit a stockinette sock on this. And you can see here, there's like a little close-up photo of learning to knit a mock rib sock on a circular sock knitting machine. So this course, you don't need a ribber attachment at all. But over the course of next year, I'm going to be working on a new course, and then that will come out not in 2026, but our plan is for 2027 to publish a ribber class. So the CSM with the ribber. And that's what we are planning to do. So very excited to see many of the socks that are popping up in the forums as well. Now, the thing about this course is that I go through how to knit the heels and the toes on the circular sock knitting machine. But if you have a machine, but you don't feel like you're ready necessarily to jump into all of that, like back and forth and, doing the heels and toes and the needles and all that kind of stuff, if you don't feel like you're ready for any of that, I did recently put out a YouTube video about how to crank the tubes on your machine and then make afterthought heels and toes. So how to pick up the stitches, how to cut in between to make an opening so that you can do your afterthought heel and toes. So that video is up on our YouTube channel and you can find that. I think we have also added it to the school as like a bonus lesson or something. That was the plan. So in any case, that is the latest course that has come out. But behind the scenes, we are actually doing a lot of other things. And so these are snapshots that Greta took from the recent weeks this past month, where we actually had a couple of instructors come in and film some classes with us. So we have a class coming with Rachel next year, Rachel Smith from Woolen Spinning or Welford Pearls. And so she's going to be spinning cotton with us. And so you can see her here with the Lendrum. It's probably like her super fast flyer, and she's spinning cotton there. And then we also have a new instructor to the school is Andrew Bryson. And so Andrew Bryson is coming to teach inkle weaving. So it's funny because for this particular month, I specifically had a question submitted asking if we would ever publish any inkle weaving classes. And so here it is, it's coming. Specifically on like how to warp an inkle loom, how to start from the very beginning. And Andrew is very, very passionate about band weaving. So we're very, very excited to have him here. Now, if you are at all interested in learning a little bit more about Andrew or a little bit more about inkle weaving, I did do a podcast episode with Andrew a couple of maybe like 6 weeks ago. maybe 2 months ago, and spoke with him. And so you can also find links to that through our podcast stuff. So that is coming as well. And then I'll show you a little snapshot of this that we're going to publish next year as well. So Linda Marvang is a designer, is a knitwear designer from Norway, and she came into Vancouver at the end of September to teach classes in person for Knit City. And then she stayed behind a couple, like 3 or 4 days extra, so that she could spend that time with us at the Sweet Georgia studio and film a new class with us. And so we have a cable knitting class that was taught by Tabitha on the School of Sweet Georgia, which is a great foundation for learning how to do cables. This class with Linda goes kind of like next level above and beyond all of that. And it's a really an advanced cables masterclass. So you will learn how to do all sorts of like crazy cables like this, also reversible cables with ribbing. It's like a mental gymnastics, really, learning how to do some of these cables. So it's absolutely fascinating. And I think it's actually easier than you think because it's just a lot of straight knitting, but because of the way that cables are take the stitches and twist them or kind of move the positions of those stitches, you are creating all of this amazing texture but with just a tiny bit of effort. So I feel like the payoff is really, really great, and the look of these cables is fantastic. This is just one of the swatches that she brought, so we have lots and lots to share around that as well. So very, very excited for that to come next year. And then the first thing that's going to launch next year is we're going to be doing hats on the knitting machine with Barb. Like we mentioned previously, Barb has filmed several classes with us for the knitting machine. And the knitting machine, you can see here, she is showing a little bit of a swatch. This is how you make a swatch on a knitting machine. You kind of have some borders of different colors. It's from the pink to the pink, and then from this pink dot to the other pink dot on the other side. And then you sort of measure the size of this sort of square area, and then you're able to get your gauge from that swatch. And so she's teaching a little bit more of that. And then she's also teaching how to make this hat on the knitting machine. And so that involves learning how to do the manual ribbing. So you would put all your stitches on, you would knit a whole bunch of rows of knit stitches, and then you would manually reform all those stitches to create ribbing on your knitting machine. It's great. It sounds like a lot of work, but it's actually very, very fast. So that is one of the skills that you'll learn on the knitting machine. And then she also teaches you how to do the crown decreases of the hat. So how do you decrease in order to cinch up the top of the hat? And then the hat is finished by um, what do you call it? You're sewing up the side, but there's a mattress stitch. Mattress stitch. You mattress stitch the two ends of your knitted fabric together, and then it makes a seamless finish. And then you have a very, very quick to knit hat. So very, very excited about that as well. Yes. Lots of things coming for next year. I feel like our years are always very, very full, but we already have a lot of classes that start you off with a good foundation for all of these future classes that we are building. And as always, we're always looking for more ideas for what you want to learn so that way we can kind of move in that direction. So if everybody's watching the inkle weaving class and you feel like, oh, I need next level inkle weaving, then please let us know and then we can see what we can do about that. So, upcoming events. I moved the calendar to here so that you guys could have a look. And Vicky has made some adjustments to the calendar to make it a little bit, hopefully, more clear about what's what. And so you can see here we have in the hot pink, there's many, many meetings here that are sort of open for folks to join. So these are all like crafternoon meetups, and these are all going to be eventually hosted on Circle. At this time for December, I would encourage you to go into the calendar on the SOS site and then click through to find the exact location for where these meetings are going to be. It will probably send you to the Connect page of the school, and then that will give you the actual link to the Google Meetup or the Zoom link or whatever it is that you're going to be going to. But these are the afternoon, happen at 10 o'clock Pacific time on Mondays with Robin. She's here in the chat today. And then also the SOS weaving class is also hosted by Robin, and I'm there when I can be there and not traveling. I always aim to be there. And then the later on in the month, there is a fiber prep meeting that is hosted by Greta and talking about fiber prep and spinning and all those kinds of things. And then on Fridays, we have in purple here the quiet co-working sessions, which are basically sessions where people join and everybody has themselves on mute and can work silently for an hour on the project that they're working on. And just, it's kind of the idea of body doubling, and you're able to actually get a lot more done, and you're able to be super, super productive just by the mere fact that somebody is sitting there with you, even if it's virtually. They're sitting there, they're doing their work, and it makes you almost do your work. And so it's a great time to come out and be really productive. If there's anything that you've been kind of procrastinating about, like, oh, I have to weave in all these ends, this is a good time to bring your project. And then on Friday, the second Friday of every month, we generally do a live stream on YouTube for the Sweet Georgia channel, and it's called Taking Back Friday Live. And then we talk about everything that's happening inside the studio side of things. And then what else do we have in December? The second Saturday of every month is an in-person meetup at the studio in Vancouver. So if you are ever in the Vancouver area, if you ever come into town and you're visiting, you are more than welcome to come visit the studio in Vancouver in person. And typically Charlotte is there and Hoy is there. Hoy is doing a ton of needle felting. You can find his YouTube channel where he's doing this needle felting. It's called Hoy Arts. It's absolutely amazing. But he's very often at the studio on Saturdays doing his needle felting projects. Charlotte is very often there, also either knitting or crocheting. She's very, very generous with sharing what she's working on and helping and all these things. So, if you ever come into Vancouver, please do come visit us then. And what else do we have? Oh, so then the last thing that we have that's new for December is that we are doing our annual holiday hangout on Friday the 19th. So this is an extra meeting that we are putting together. And this is because we don't do a live office hours in December. So this is kind of our last chance to hang out and get together and chat and spend some time together, because our team does go on a bit of a holiday between Christmas and New Year's. We completely shut down the studio. Everybody's at home with their families. And so it's a little bit more difficult to get together during that time. So that's why we have this holiday hangout on the 19th. So I do encourage you guys to come to that. I have a little bit more to say about that on this one. So yes, our team will be there. So you can see here, these are some really, really lovely little holiday projects. These are little they're they're wine corks that have been crocheted over. These are made by Anita. They're super, super cute. There's a little snapshot of them. And then this is some popcorn hand spun yarn. It looks like popcorn, but it's actually wool. And it's this textured spinning. There's an article about it. Diana Twist spun all of this, but it's kind of like your popcorn garland that was popular when we were kids, stringing actual pieces of popcorn. But this is yes, it's made from wool, so it's awesome. So these two little projects are holiday things that are going to be shared soon. But yeah, I hope that you guys will join us for that, because we do have some giveaways in that meeting as well. What else do we have going on right now? We have the Winterful Weave Along, which is happening right now. And there are projects that are showing up inside of Circle that you guys can pop on and have a look at. Lots of people are working on these projects, whether it is on rigid heddle or if it's on their four shaft looms. Lots of beautiful color combinations happening with all of this as well. The next project that we have coming on is the Fiber Prep February. So I think we started this last year. I think it's just last year that we started this, but we do this sort of month-long exploration of some way of fiber prepping. And so last year, we were looking at blending boards. We were looking at using blending boards for the first time and making roll eggs and things like that. And so this year, what we wanted to do is for Fiber Prep February, we wanted to look more deeply into the class that Kim McKenna taught us, which was about spinning bast fibers. And so that's looking at everything from spinning with flax and hemp and ramie and nettle, and so we have a kit where you can get all of these fibers to work with and play with. And the kit is actually available now for pre-order. So we're doing pre-orders because we don't stock this bast fiber all year round. It's not available all the time. We only have sort of like a window of time where we keep this bast fiber orders open. Um, and then we will order all of the fiber, make all the kits, and then send them out. And, if you already have bast fiber in your stash, then you're more than welcome to use your own materials. But this is just our way of sort of collecting together enough orders so that way we can make this fiber kit happen. So that's the fiber kit that we are going to kind of play with. And then you can see here, these are many of Kim's hand spun yarns where she has blended together some of these bast fibers together with Cordale in various percentages and things like that. And so it her spinning is always very inspiring and gorgeous, but this is something that would be really, really interesting to do is learning how to blend the fibers and then learning how to spin them all together. Over the summer, I took some of the bast fibers and I was spinning them like on their own, straight on their own. And I think that I haven't had the opportunity to sit down and sort of blend them with wool to see how different that is and how different that feels. So this is something that we're going to explore in February when it comes. Yeah, so excited to have you guys join us for that. Now, moving more into the fiber prep stuff and spinning stuff, we are very, 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 very excited to say that Debbie Held is actually coming back to Vancouver in 2026. And she's going to be in Vancouver teaching 2 workshops in one day. It's going to be like a one-day extravaganza with Debbie Held. And so basically the idea is that she's going to be at our studio, at the SweetGeorgia Yarns studio in the morning, and she's going to teach a workshop about blending boards. So it's about using blending boards, using it to its greatest potential. And it might include some, yeah, yes, she's gonna be using her blending board. You know that, she has come out with a book this past year about blending boards, and so she's gonna be going into all of that in the morning. And then you are more than welcome to bring a lunch and have lunch with us at the studio. And then after lunch, there's going to be a second workshop that is going to be at Granville Island, which is about, I guess, 20 minutes, half an hour away kind of drive, probably about 20 minutes, 25-minute drive. Granville Island and Sanjo Silk and the Silk Weaving Studio on Granville Island is going to host the second workshop. And the second workshop with Debbie Held is all going to be about carding wild silk and making roll eggs and ponies and things like that with silk. And so you'll be using, obviously, the silk that is available at Sanjo Silk. It's a very, very inspiring location. Every time people come into Vancouver, I always want to take them to Granville Island to share with them this gorgeous studio that Diana Sanderson has built. So Diana Sanderson at the Silk Weaving Studio and Sanjo Silk Studio have this. Very, very excited about all of that. So Debbie Held is coming. Yes, the workshop does sound amazing. Like it's a whole day sort of, it's almost like a one-day retreat where you get to see like different locations. So you're going to come and see the SweetGeorgia studio, have lunch, and then pop over to Granville Island as well. And yeah, so we have the link. It's available. You're more than welcome to sign up now because there is early bird pricing from now until December 24th. There's a bit of an early bird discount. So yeah, Greta has just popped the link in the chat there. So that you guys can access that. Yes, very, very excited to see Debbie again. And if you have her book, please feel free to bring her book and maybe have your book signed and all that kind of thing. But that'll be really, really fun. Now, let's see a little bit of what you guys have been working on making this past month. And so some of these projects have been posted in the community forums for the school. And so that's where I was looking for some of these projects. But many, many, many more projects have also been posted in the circle side of things. So if you go into the Sweet Georgia community, there's lots and lots of project posts going on, many sweaters being knit actually, and lots of very inspiring things that I have added to my Ravelry queue things to make for next year. But I'm going to show you a couple of things. And one of the first things here is this is from Juliet. Juliet has been doing a bit of weaving on her rigid heddle loom. I believe that her rigid heddle loom is actually kind of new to her. I think she might have just received it recently. And so she's making some dish towels right now. And she tried a new technique for the end. Rather than hem stitching the end, she's using this twining technique. And so she was just asking some questions about how stable is it? Will it actually all fall out or will it be okay? And so you can kind of follow this particular thread to read more about that. But on top of that, I also wanted to share this photo because these two little weaving shuttles, these netting shuttles, these ones were printed by her husband, who recently received or recently started doing 3D printing. And so just the number of fiber arts tools that you can make yourself using a 3D printer is absolutely amazing. And it makes me want to print more with my printer. Our printer is just so finicky and requires so much fussing that it's hard sometimes to print things. But then I see everything that people are printing, and then it just makes me want to print more things on this 3D printer. And so I'll show you the other thing that her husband actually designed. So Juliet's husband is also an engineer and also designed a folding peg rack for the warping. So you know that when you warp a rigid heddle loom, typically the rigid heddle loom comes with one warping peg, and then you put it at the table, and then you do your direct warping off of the one peg. And the problem with that is that you end up with possible tension issues, because if you're using a wide rigid heddle loom, then you have some ends that are coming from the sides coming to the peg, and those ends are going to be longer than the one that's coming through the middle of the warping of the loom. And so one of the suggestions is to have multiple pegs clamped to the end of the table so that you can kind of shorten that angle that happens. So some people will clamp like a warping board, or something like that, or like a section of a warping board to the end of the table. So this one is a folding one, so you can put it away, but you can see how it actually works. So you can see the table loom is set up at one end of the table, and then all of the warp is coming down to this warping peg, and then the warp is spread out across all of those different pegs that are available. So that's quite ingenious. And then you can just fold it up and store it away. So it's very, very clever. And then on this particular thread that I encourage you guys to go check out, Juliet also mentioned a weaving channel that is specifically dedicated to rigid heddle weaving. It's a YouTuber in Australia, in Brisbane, Australia. I actually looked at this channel maybe 2 weeks ago, but I forget what it is now. But you can find the Rigid Heddle Weaving channel, YouTube channel, in that thread as well. And, yeah, it's fantastic, absolutely awesome. All the things that you can make with a 3D printer. It's ingenious. So, I'm looking forward to seeing more. Like, the more and more, I've seen so many wonderful things, like print at your own cone winder, print your own rigid heddle loom, print your own circular sock knitting machine. There's so much that you can do in this whole area. Now, still talking about weaving, I wanted to share this one is by Kira. And so Kira we've been talking about Kira's learning plan over the past couple of months, because she has a very, very ambitious plan of lots of things that she's working on. And she updates all of her endeavors by date. So, like on X date, this is what I did. You should make a little note. And it contributes towards this larger goal that she has. So it's actually a very, very interesting way of keeping track of all of the things that you're working on. And you can also see very visibly how much effort you've put towards any particular goal. So Or you could see if you have ignored a particular goal and like, oh, I haven't done anything about that in a while. So it's actually a really interesting way of documenting your work. But Kira was making the Pacific plaid scarf, and so she was weaving it, and then she said that she kind of like, if you look very, very closely, you can see that the colors are shifted. So the second scarf, she says, I inverted the light blue with the light purple and the teal with the dark purple. So they look like they are a pair, right? They're using the same warp colors, but you can see in here that this center is light blue, and then this center is light pink, and then this section is dark purple, and this one is teal. So there's these very subtle differences between the two scarves, but they still look like they're a pair, like a matching set. It's really very nice. And she's saying that she also had the opportunity to take this yarn and full it a little bit. And she says you could probably push it a little bit further, but it changes the texture and the feel of the fabric after doing this. So she says it's nice and soft compared to the wool when it was on the loom. So I'm actually very curious about anybody who has sort of worked with the Knoll merino that we were working with. It is a merino that is not treated. And so when you wash it, it will full and then become this like really beautiful solid fabric. I think Kathy also has done some uh, Catherine has also done some experiments with brushing the fiber as well to make it like really have a nap and like a really beautiful hand as well. So that is something to check out as well. Now, we have a couple of other slides here. And so I wanted to share because Greta is here today. Greta, Greta got a new spinning wheel. I did not know this. I'm gonna have to ask you about this more today. But Greta received a new sidekick wheel, a shacked sidekick. And she says, I'm just getting to know her. And after cleaning it and oiling it, I started the first braid of fiber spun short forward just to get used to the wheel. And this is a very, very interesting idea, is that the whirls that work on the sidekick, some of them work on the sidekick, some of them work on the matchless, some of them are interchangeable, some of them are not. And so she has named her sidekick Lola, and she has named her matchless Majo, I believe. And so then she's also listed the exact ratios for when she's using a particular whirl on the matchless versus when you're using it on the sidekick. And then also, because there are different grooves on all of these wheels, on all these whirls as well, you are able to get different ratios, like different spinning ratios. And so she's listed all of these very specifically so that she knows exactly what she's getting when I use this whirl and this particular groove. I know that I'm going to get this spinning ratio. And so it's very, very good way of keeping records, because if you have this many whirls and you have two wheels and you have multiple grooves and you're going to spin a fiber, and every time you look at your fiber, I'm like, I don't remember what settings I used for spinning. I'm never going to remember. Was it 20 to 1? Was it 17 to 1? Was it 8 to 1? I don't know. And so I think that this is actually a great idea to make all of these notes so that way you can record exactly what it is that you did. And it's not just, oh, I used the medium whirl with this, but it's even knowing what groove it was, and therefore it was this particular spinning ratio. So you can look more at the thread here, because Greta talks more about all the things that she's been doing to sort of. There's a nice picture from the wheel and as well. So, yeah. So it is getting used to a new wheel and getting used to all of these kinds of things. It's fantastic. It's a great idea. So many whirls to keep track of, so many numbers. But the spinning is looking fantastic, and she has a very lovely photo of singles on the sidekick that is very lovely as well. So I encourage you guys to go check that out and think about if you have a similar situation with all of your spinning equipment and tools as well. I know that when I'm spinning on the Daedalus Starling now, uh, I'm just I everything is adjusted to a specific speed on the speed control, and so I just remember what the speed is. But, my memory is failing now too, so I'm gonna have to do a lot more work next year about documentation. And so these are all things that are gonna help with this idea of documentation. And now just a couple of photos to share with you guys of socks because the sock class did come out last week or no, last month. And we have had a number of people go through the class and finally knit some socks. And so these ones are from Catherine Speck, and Catherine has a true knit machine, which uh, which is it's a brand new type of machine that is newly manufactured, also from Missouri, and, people who have it absolutely love it. I've actually never seen one in real life yet. I would love to, but yeah, it sounds like a wonderful, wonderful CSM. And so Catherine says that she's cranked a couple of tubes and she's made a couple of sock bonnets, and then she attempted to heel, and so she's been watching the CSM class and sort of gaining confidence in all of that. But these particular socks that she's showing here in the photo, these pink striped socks, these ones have afterthought heels. And the ribbed hem is also knit by hand. And then the toe, which you also can see, is also an afterthought toe as well. But that is all coming. And yeah, she says that this pair turned out well. Very, very happy about that. And then we have some more socks here from Madeline. So Madeline, she says she's also been working on the CSM course. She's been also watching the Dean and Bean videos. Because she has the Dean and Bean machine. And so far, she's cranked a couple of socks with heels. She's done afterthought heels as well. And she's also learning how to do the mock rib. And she says, what I've learned so far is that it's often easier to start over than to try to make a fix. And we talked definitely about that because if by the end of it, a sock takes about 20 minutes to crank, but you spend 45 minutes trying to fix a mistake, it's actually easier to take it off the machine, wind it back into a ball, and then start over again. Swatches are critical, she says. And then she says you have to trust your math and you can always knit it, undo it, and reknit it lots of times. And so the one on the left here, this is actually, she says, it's the party of five. That she used to make these socks. And so she would just use the single needle join that we talked about in the class to make stripes of all of these different colors. And that's how she made this gradient color all the way down the sock. But it's looking beautiful. It's like so even. It's very precise. Everything is matchy-matchy. It looks fantastic. And Madeline says, looking forward to working through my sock yarn stash. So that is basically it for today in terms of the projects that we have to show. But it's really, really wonderful to see all the things that you guys have been making over the past month, all of the things that you've been learning and experimenting with through the things that we've shared through the school, through our make-alongs, through the community, and all these kinds of things. I am actually very, very curious to see what you have planned, what you're thinking about for next year. And I think that this is always the best time to kind of pause, reflect on what have I made this year? What have I done this year? What have I learned this year? What else do I want to do for next year? What else do I want to learn? And start to think about making a plan for how that's going to happen. And so December is very often a little bit of a quieter downtime if you have any downtime between holiday events and things like that. But in this downtime, to take stock of what you've made, take stock of your stash, make a pile of all the sock yarn that you want to crank into socks or make into something or weave into a project. And yeah, excited to see what the new year will bring. So hopefully we will see you on one of the meetings that come up in the next couple of weeks. We have a weaving meetup. We have a multi-craftual maker meetup in December. We have fiber prep meetup, and then we have that holiday meetup as well. So there's lots and lots of opportunities to get together and to gather before the end of this year. But otherwise, I would love to see you guys in the community, in the forums, in the chat, all of that stuff. So you can see yeah, we have our forums, we have our circle meetings, we have these live office hours. Yes, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in one of these places. So thank you guys so much for being here today. And yeah, hope to see you guys in the coming weeks. All right. Bye for now.